Imagine this for a second. You've spent weeks, maybe even months, really pouring your expertise into training someone. Guiding them, watching them, correcting them, and finally you think, okay, they're ready, competent. You sign off, hand over the certificate, shake their hand. You feel pretty good about it, right? But then maybe months later, maybe even years, something just goes terribly wrong because of their actions. And suddenly, it's not just awkward questions. You're like right in the legal spotlight. Your name, your reputation, everything, it's on the line. That's the really high stakes scenario we're digging into today. It's all about vicarious liability, but specifically for firearms instructors. This isn't just about what a student does after class, it's how your training, your certification, your name basically gets pulled right into it if their bullet misses or, hits the wrong target. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're going deep today into what happens when a student's actions cause legal trouble and how that can actually land the instructor, maybe unexpectedly, on trial. Our guide here is this really compelling piece. When their bullet misses, you're on trial. It's by Herfel, a firearms expert writing for Tech. And our mission, it's to pull out the key insights, maybe the uncomfortable ones too, from this article about the huge legal and frankly moral weight that comes with saying someone's ready to handle deadly force. It's about understanding what that professional endorsement really means, what being truly ready actually involves.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating right off the bat is how this article just tackles this common idea, maybe a misconception, about what an instructor actually does.
Yeah.
Many people, maybe even instructors themselves, might think it's purely technical. Teaching stance, grip, safety rules, basic shooting. And they might think, okay, my job's done when they walk out the door, certain hand. But Herfel's piece just says, hold on a second. It pushes way beyond just teaching skills. It brings in this much heavier responsibility, certifying judgment. It forces you to ask, are you just teaching someone how to shoot? Or are you actually evaluating their ability to make life and death decisions? And that raises a huge question right from the start. What is an instructor really signing off on with that certificate? It's got to be more than just hitting paper in a calm setting. It's got to be about their judgment, their ethics, how they make decisions when everything's hitting the fan.
That's a huge distinction. And the article really drives this home with this vivid picture it paints right at the beginning. It says, you hand them the certificate, you shake their hand, and they walk out the door with a gun, a license, and your name attached to their performance. That just hits hard, doesn't it? It forces the instructor to really confront the weight of that moment. It's not just paper, it's a link.
A direct link back to you.
Exactly. A link from whatever they do next right back to your endorsement. And then it hits you with those really sharp questions, the ones that, they'd keep you up at night if you haven't thought about this seriously. If they shoot the wrong person, who answers for it? If they freeze when it counts, who trained them? If they kill when they shouldn't have, whose signature said they were ready? These aren't just, rhetorical flourishes. They're the questions that get asked in court. And this, folks, is where we enter the world of vicarious liability. It can be uncomfortable, sure, but it's so important. It's where your credibility, your professional reputation, everything can get dragged into court because someone else had a really bad day or made a catastrophic mistake. It casts a long shadow.
A very long shadow. And the article is blunt about what vicarious liability means for the instructor. It called it legal fire aimed at your professional reputation. This isn't some abstract legal theory. It's about real, personal, potentially career-ending consequences for you, the instructor. It's basically saying blame, or at least intense legal focus, can shift from the person who actually did the thing to the person who trained or supervised them. And Herfel lays out the specific consequences. They're pretty stark. You could get subpoenaed, right? Forced to show up in court, lose work time. Your whole training approach, every lesson plan, all your student records, they can be picked apart by lawyers looking for any little weakness. Your teaching methods, not just discussed in class, but cross-examined, challenged, maybe even torn down in front of a jury who might not know the first thing about firearms training. And maybe worst of all, your credibility. Everything you've built. It can be weaponized against you in court, civil or criminal. Imagine that. Your experience used against you. It fundamentally changes how the legal system looks at professional responsibility here. Because, as the article points out, when something bad happens with a gun, the question isn't just, what did the shooter do? That's just step one. The lawyers, the courts, they quickly ask, who trained them? And then, well, how were they trained? Was it enough for the real world? Connecting this to the bigger idea, it's not just about proving the instructor was, negligent during the class itself, did something obviously careless. No, vicarious liability here is about that implied trust, that endorsement you give with the certificate. It's like saying, I vouch for this person's readiness. And the legal system holds you to that promise, that endorsement. You become a key link in the chain.
That idea of implied trust is so critical. It really elevates the instructor's role, doesn't it? Think about it this way, maybe outside of firearms, like a doctor signing off on someone's health, or an engineer approving a bridge design.
Hmm.
The second their name goes on that paper, that chart, that plan, they're basically saying, I stand behind this, my reputation is on this.
Exactly. It's a declaration of confidence.
And with that confidence comes huge responsibility. For a firearms instructor, that signature isn't just checking a box. It's a public legal statement saying, you believe this person can handle a lethal weapon responsibly. So if they mess up, it's not just their problem anymore, it's suddenly directly your problem too. You're tied to their actions long after they've left your class. It totally reframes the job, the weight of it. Okay, now here's where the article gets, well, really interesting and maybe a little challenging for some folks. It says, flat out, if you think your job is just teaching trigger discipline and proper stance, you're in the wrong line of work.
Oh,
That's a bold statement. It pushes back hard against the basic idea many might have about firearms training.
it really does.
It suggests that if your training stops at the mechanics, you're kind of missing the whole point of what certification should be about. So, I gotta ask you, listening out there, and you here with me, what do you think the biggest misunderstanding is about what a firearms instructor really does? Is it just the physical stuff, accuracy, safety drills, or is it something deeper, something about, character, judgment? Herfel clearly thinks it's the second one.
Oh, absolutely. The article really expands the role way beyond just technical skill. It argues, very directly, that as an instructor, you are certifying a person's judgment under stress. Just pause on that for a second. Judgment under stress. That's not about hitting a target when everything's calm. It's about making good, ethical, legally sound decisions when your heart's pounding, things are confusing, and the stakes are literally life and death. How do you even teach that or test it?
Yeah, how do you test that reliably?
Well, it suggests you need training environments that really push people, not just reinforce the basics. And it goes further. It says, you are vouching for their ability to make life and death decisions. That implies almost a psychological assessment, right? Understanding how someone reacts under pressure, how they think in a crisis, what their moral compass looks like. It's evaluating their capacity for responsibility, for restraint, not just can they shoot straight. And then the big one, you are placing your own name behind the idea that this individual won't be a danger to others. That's the ultimate societal trust placed on the instructor, ensuring that people you certify won't be a threat through malice, incompetence, or just bad judgment. It's a massive burden.
A huge burden.
And Herfel is crystal clear about what happens if you don't meet that standard. And if you're handing out certs because the check cleared and no one flagged during the class, you're not an instructor. You're a liability multiplier. Liability multiplier. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's a serious warning. You're not just passively allowing risk, you are actively increasing the legal danger for yourself, your business, maybe others.
Wow.
It means by cutting corners, you make a bad outcome more likely and you make the legal fallout worse. This brings up huge ethical questions, doesn't it? It points towards needing proactive risk management baked into the training, not just reacting after something happens, a moral duty, almost.
Liability multiplier.
Yeah, that phrase definitely sticks with you. It's such a precise and, kind of alarming way to put it. How an instructor, just by not being rigorous enough, can basically blow up the potential legal risk. Think about it. Just processing students, checking boxes, not really digging into their judgment, their stress reactions. You're not just passing them, you're potentially creating more danger out there. And, crucially, creating a direct path for lawyers to come after you if that danger turns real, turning a small risk into a potentially huge one.
Exponentially larger,
Yep.
potentially. This totally changes the game for the instructor's role. They're not just teaching technique like, how to parallel park. No, they become this critical gatekeeper for public safety. The last stop before someone is deemed ready to carry deadly force. So what does this mean for the standards they need? It means everything has to be way more rigorous, more discerning. It's about preventing disaster, fundamentally. And the article is also really clear, maybe uncomfortably so, that you can't just pass the buck based on someone's background. Herfel says, point blank, I don't care if your student showed up with prior LE credentials, carries every day, knows guns because they grew up around them, That just throws out the idea that you can defer to their past. Like, oh, they were a cop, they must be fine. Nope.
Yeah, that's a hard line.
It really hammers home that your judgment in your class, based on your assessment right then and there, is what counts. It's the ultimate authority. It's a reminder that every single student, no matter their resume or how much they say they know, has to meet your current, tough, measurable standards. The certificate is on you, not their history.
Exactly. And that flows right into these non-negotiable failure criteria that Herfel lays out. These are the absolute red lines, situations where you must fail someone, period. First,
Right.
if they can't safely run the gun under pressure, you fail them. This is all about performance when things get stressful, not just on a quiet range. Stress changes everything, right? Motor skills go, thinking gets muddy, safety under stress, non-negotiable. If they fumble basic things like clearing a jam under pressure, they're a risk, full stop.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, and this is huge, if they can't demonstrate judgment in force-on-force drills, you fail them. Force-on-force, for anyone listening who might not know, uses things like simunitions or airsoft, realistic scenarios against actual people, to test decision-making. It's the ultimate test. Do they know when to shoot, when not to shoot? Can they de-escalate? Do they use appropriate force? It tests their judgment in a dynamic, messy situation. If they're reckless, or freeze up, or use too much force, that's a failure of judgment right there.
So it's way beyond just hitting the target.
Way beyond. And the third one, if they've got the gear but none of the reps, you fail. Schulze. This hits on the need for actual practice, consistent training, not just owning fancy gear or knowing the theory. Having the best equipment means nothing without the ingrained skill, the muscle memory, the decision-making pathways built through repetition. It's about demonstrated ability, over and over. And the big takeaway from passing someone when maybe you shouldn't have, Herfel says, because the moment you pass them, you're telling the system, I trust this person to carry deadly force responsibly. That's not casual. It's a serious declaration, a personal guarantee almost, to society and the law. What's really striking here is the absolute focus on practical, testable competence under stress. It moves way past just theory or assumptions about prior experience. It's about real, verifiable readiness and the cost of getting it wrong. If that turns out to be a lie, it'll be you explaining it on the record. That's not just a bad review, it's potentially life-changing legal trouble.
Yeah. Explaining it on the record. That phrase just lands with a thud, doesn't it? It conjures up images of depositions, courtrooms. It means not just your methods being dissected, but you being dissected, defending your choices, your standards, to lawyers, a jury, maybe the public.
Under intense scrutiny.
Intense scrutiny. Why did you pass this specific person? What drills did you run? What were the scores? Every little detail becomes ammunition. It really underscores the massive trust that the system and society puts in an instructor's judgment. When you certify someone, you're basically vouching for their character, their decision-making, their responsibility with lethal force. Not just their aim. It's about their ethics, their restraint, their understanding of consequences. The stakes are just incredibly high for everyone involved. So, okay, a bad shoot happens. Someone you certified is involved. It's not just them under the microscope, right? The article makes it clear. The legal machinery kicks in, and lawyers start digging. And their focus, it often lands right on the instructor and the training program.
They're looking for accountability, for links in the chain.
Exactly. They know training is often that critical link. So you, as the instructor, need to be ready for what they're going to look for. It's not surface level, it's deep.
Absolutely. And the article is very specific about the questions attorneys will ask. It's basically a roadmap for what makes training defensible in court. They'll ask, did the instructor teach use of force law? This is fundamental. Knowing when you can legally use force is arguably more critical than just knowing how. If you don't teach the legal framework, you're setting students up to fail.
That makes sense. What else?
Were decision-making drills included?
Yeah.
It loops right back to certifying judgment. Lawyers want proof, hard proof, that students were put in realistic scenarios where they had to make tactical and ethical choices, not just shooting paper. Then, was the training documented? This is huge. Without meticulous records, lesson plan scores, notes, attendance, proving your program was rigorous is incredibly hard. Your word isn't enough. You need the paper trail.
Documentation is always key in these things.
Always. And finally, was the instructor certified, updated, and consistent? They'll scrutinize your own credentials, your ongoing training, if you follow best practices, if you teach everyone the same way. Are you current? Are you consistent? And they won't just ask questions. They'll demand evidence. They'll want your lesson plan. They'll want your test scores. They'll want proof that your course prepared that student to make the right call under extreme pressure. It's about data, results, proof of preparation for chaos. And here's the real warning shot from the article. And if your defense is, I taught what the state minimum required, guess what? The prosecution will eat you alive. Yeah. It's a brutal caution that just meeting the bare minimum regs is nowhere near enough when you're facing a lawsuit or charges. Minimal compliance looks like inadequate preparation in court. So connecting it all, this isn't just about picking boxes on a state form. It's about building a truly robust, defensible curriculum, one that shows a deep commitment to preparing students for the reality of high-stress encounters. The legal standard applied in court is often much, much higher than the minimum required by law. It's about making your program genuinely bulletproof.
That gap between state minimums and what holds up in court is so vital. It's really the core issue here. It's the difference between just, getting by, complying technically versus truly aiming for excellence, putting public safety first. It's about thinking ahead, anticipating legal challenges before they happen, by building a program that's thorough, effective, and resilient, being proactive.
Proactive, not reactive.
And this loops back to what you said about meticulous documentation and also the need for instructors themselves to stay current, keep learning, keep improving. You can't really claim to be preparing students for high-stakes decisions if your own knowledge isn't up to date and well documented. It's a constant process. So it leads to that fundamental question, what does it really take to forge competence, not just hand out paper? The article closes with this incredibly powerful image, really sums it all up. Every certificate you sign is a loaded gun pointed at your integrity.
Wow. That's a metaphor that sticks. Every student you certify, you're putting your own integrity, your reputation on the line, tied directly to their future actions.
That's forgettable.
And it leads into this almost moral call to action from the source. You want to be an instructor, then act like the lives your students may take and the lives they may save are also yours to carry. That's not just a job description. It's talking about carrying a heavy burden, a trust, recognizing that your training has consequences, good or bad, far beyond the classroom, owning those financial outcomes.
And the article drives home that this isn't just a feeling of duty. It's real. It says, because in the eyes of the law and the court of public opinion, they are, unquote. So the responsibility isn't just moral or ethical. It translates directly into legal accountability and that intense public judgment if things go wrong.
Yeah.
Pressure from both sides, the legal system and public perception.
Yeah, the court of public opinion can be brutal.
Absolutely, which reinforces Velitech's core advice. Don't hand out paper, forge competence. A total rejection of lazy, minimum effort training. It demands real, demonstrated ability under pressure. And then, don't teach for comfort, train for court. That's strategic. Design your program to withstand legal attack, not just to be easy for students. Think like the opposing lawyer. And the final commitment it demands. And don't ever sign off on a shooter unless you're willing to bet your own name, business, and conscience on their citizens under fire. That's the ultimate standard, isn't it? Are you willing to stake everything on that student's performance when it truly matters? This also makes you think about the impact on the whole industry. Raising standards like this, holding instructors so accountable, it doesn't just protect individual instructors. It elevates the entire profession. It builds more trust with the public, with the legal system. And ultimately, by producing genuinely competent people, it improves safety for everyone. It pushes the field toward real excellence.
That idea of elevating the whole industry, pushing beyond just compliance, that leads right into what Velitech actually offers. Their solution to, as they put it, bulletproof your program. They clearly get this complex legal and ethical stuff, and their approach starts with training the trainers, giving instructors the deep knowledge, the tools, the legal awareness to meet these incredibly high standards, empowering the gatekeepers, basically.
Which makes sense. Start there.
Right. And their program isn't just theory. They use force-on-force training, which we agreed is critical for testing judgment under stress, getting beyond the static range. They use legal case studies, real-world examples of how training gets picked apart in court. Huge learning opportunities there. They stress documentation that stands up in court, giving instructors the frameworks for that vital record keeping. And maybe most importantly, real-world pressure tests that separate checkbox training from real liability management. These sound like serious evaluations designed to find weaknesses before they become disasters.
It sounds comprehensive.
It really does. A holistic approach that goes way beyond just minimum regs. It's about building real competence, ethical judgment, and managing liability proactively. Their final call to action sums it all up perfectly. Stop handing out paper. Start certifying performance. It's a really clear message, not just for firearms instructors, but really for anyone who certifies skills in any high-stakes field. So wrapping this up, we've seen that certifying someone with a firearm isn't just a simple transaction. It's this profound endorsement, huge legal, moral, societal weight attached. Vicarious liability puts this enduring burden on the instructor. It demands more than just teaching skills. It demands certifying judgment, character, a real commitment to safety. That responsibility doesn't end when the class does.
It really lingers.
It does. And, this whole deep dive into vicarious liability for firearms instructors, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other professions out there, you mentioned medicine, engineering, maybe financial advisors, pilots carry a similar, maybe unspoken burden? Where just signing your name on a piece of paper, a license, a recommendation, an approval could mean your reputation, your integrity is on the line for what someone else does, long after you made your call. Definitely something to mull over as you navigate your own world, whatever that might be, full of certifications, endorsements, and all the trust we place in professional judgment.